Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another spicy episode of the Sanity stream with Lucius Coal. If you like this type of content, go down below, like, subscribe, share, and of course leave a comment if you think I deserve it. The Coal Factory and the Coal Train on our way to 1,000 Patriots strong, thanks to people like you watching content like this. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into today's show. We're going to be talking about Cuomo, that's right, the oh-so illustrious governor of New York, the amazing COVID creator, the man who simply sent people into nursing homes for their own good, guys, for their own demise and taking out those juicy Trump voters. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. For those of you who haven't seen, Cuomo signs bill banning sale of Confederate and Nazi flags at New York State Fair. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the rebel flag of Virginia is in the exact same level as the Nazi flag of Germany. Can't you see, ladies and gentlemen? We had people in World War II flying the Confederate flag on their tanks, on their vehicles, on their arm patches, killing Nazis. But again, this is the exact same type of people that somehow end up becoming Nazis? I don't know. Revisionist history, I guess, right, ladies and gentlemen? Take a look. Governor Andrew Cuomo has signed a bill into law that aims to ban the sale of hate symbols on state property. According to the New York Post, the ban covers items such as the Confederate flag, Nazi symbols like the swastika. It bans sales of those items on public grounds, including local fairs and the New York State Fair in Syracuse. The ban includes some exceptions, including if the images are used in books, museum services, or part of educational or historic purposes, according to Spectrum News. Even as he signed the bill, Cuomo acknowledged it needs changes so it doesn't conflict with the First Amendment's free speech protections. The governor's legislators have already talking about possible alterations to the law. So again, we are going to sign into law something that we knowingly know breaks the First Amendment of the United States, and yet we're going to do it anyway. This seems to be the laissez-faire attitude that most politicians have. It doesn't really matter what the Constitution says. Our Bill of Rights are simply dead. They are a piece of paper that are simply to be used and discarded when they are not needed, and then brought up with virtuous justice when it is needed the most for their own political aims and aspirations. And for those of you who don't know, this whole revisionist history is absolutely mind-boggling. Everyone seems to think that the Confederates were these evil, nasty people that simply wanted to keep their slaves. They wanted the free labor, and that's what the war was fought for. But ladies and gentlemen, over 10 states in the Northern Hemisphere, meaning North America, South America, as well as the United States, over 10 of them had slaves during the time of the Civil War, and yet the Civil War was the only war that actually happened that actually ended slavery. So how did all those other countries do it? Why didn't they have civil wars? Huh? I don't know. Were there perhaps maybe some more nefarious reasons? Were maybe the illustrious and wonderful way that we look at Abraham Lincoln isn't quite the real, actual truth in terms of history? Maybe it was perhaps that suspending habeas corpus and throwing political prisoners in jail, silencing people, starting the draft, as well as basically coming together in a more fascist or what they like to call a neoconservative line of combining the state with big steel, big lumber, big railroads, stuff like that, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, none of that matters. It doesn't matter that the southern states were paying 90% of the taxes that were being sent up into Philadelphia, New York, as well as, basically all of the Yankee states, right, ladies and gentlemen? None of that matters. No, it wasn't the 40-plus senators that vetoed the tariffs that ultimately ended up being superseded and placed on them anyways. It doesn't matter that they were the ones who were actually creating things like cotton, like most of the goods that were being sent overseas. No, none of that matters, ladies and gentlemen. All that matters was the South was evil racist, and the war was simply fought because of slavery. That's what you need to know, guys. And it's very, very hard to break out of this social conditioning because for those of you who have gone through the public school system, and I'm all for a 1776 style type of education. Now, that doesn't mean that I want a full-on mind melt and simply just start filling your head with pro-America propaganda if it doesn't actually hold truth. It is nice to actually view the country in a way that actually brings people together, as opposed to saying that America is this super evil, Darwinian, and destructive force that hasn't done anything ever to help the entire planet, which it has. But of course, There is a middle ground here, guys, and it's called the truth. America has done great things. America has done terrible things. And when you are skewing in one particular direction or another, you end up holding up people in terms of this reverence and this ideology. People like Abraham Lincoln, who by his own right was a tyrant, and yet the Republican Party holds him up as if he was this beacon of freedom. I mean, look, the Hamiltons and the Federalists, this is what fascism light looks like. It's combining the state with big business, which is what Abraham Lincoln did. He didn't have to fight the war. He simply only had to buy the slaves out like nearly every other country did. Why was it we were the only ones to actually fight a massive civil war leading up to over 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 dead Americans, as well as instilling the draft, which still stands to this day, killing over 2 million Vietnam civilians? Absolute insanity, guys. But again, this is a hate symbol, a true hate symbol, guys. And there's a much more nefarious reason behind why this is happening right now, and I want to show you what it is and what I believe it to be. Ryan Dawson talks about this quite a bit. Secession, ladies and gentlemen. Secession. Texas lawmakers to file a bill calling for vote on secession from the United States. A Texas lawmaker has vowed to introduce legislation allowing a referendum for voters to cast their ballots on whether to secede from the United States. The federal government is out of control and does not represent the value of Texans. That is why I'm committing to file legislation this session that will allow a referendum to give Texans a vote for the state of Texas to reassert its status as an independent nation. Texas State Kyle Biederman shared on Facebook Tuesday. Biederman says legislation aligns with Texas Constitution, which reads, "The faith of the people of Texas stands pledged to the preservation of a republican form of government, and subject to this limitation only, they have all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such matter as they may see expedient." This is what this is, guys. This is why they are attacking the culture. This is why they are going against people that pushed against the grain. That's why they're trying to destroy American history. That's why they're trying to remove names of Confederate generals off of army bases and stuff like that. You think this is all just because it's all peace, prosperity, and lovey-dovey? There are nefarious reasons behind this. They're doing this for ultimate control. They're doing this because they don't want to see another rebellion. They don't want to see another secession. And after the Supreme Court refused to take up the Texas lawsuit, which included 19 other states, withholding Kentucky, by the way, and we'll be getting to Mitch McConnell later in this particular episode. Absolutely disgusting. But are we really surprised, ladies and gentlemen? These RINOs have been against us since the very beginning. And once again, true patriots like you and myself must stand up and fight against this utter tyranny. Like I was saying before, secession is the ultimate goal here, ladies and gentlemen, because the Supreme Court simply poo-pooing and saying, Texas has no standing, Texas has no standing, and yet similar lawsuits have come across the line. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Bush v. Gore. I don't know, kind of a case that, I don't know, happened to come up in 2000, involved this man named George Bush. You may have heard of him. And this other guy, his name was Al Gore. Apparently he created the internet. I think we all remember that one, ladies and gentlemen. But again, when you are not even willing to hear the case, that doesn't even matter if let's just say, for all intents and purposes, that the Supreme Court took up the case, went through the evidence, and still said that, hey, you know what, there's not enough here, or maybe there is some stuff here, but it's not enough to overturn the results of the election. Fair game. Now, I still wouldn't agree with that, but at least I would say, hey, at least they looked at the evidence. At least they gave us what their reasoning was, and they didn't. They did not stand up for the Constitution. They did not stand up for 70 million Americans. They did not stand up for our republic. So why exactly should the states that completely see this election as a total farce, a complete and total farce, over 70+% of Trump supporters and voters believing that this election was stolen? If that is the case, why should we, as the governed, allow the government to continue to rule over us when they won't even take what we believe to be a complete and total farce of an election and not even willing to listen to it? Why should we be part of the United States? when the United States are far from united? I don't know. I don't know. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. For those of you who haven't seen, guys, ladies and gentlemen, there was a post by Project Veritas. It involved a leaked audio. In leaked audio, Julian Assange, for those of you who don't know, I'm all for Julian Assange. This man has been held behind bars in prison in the UK for simply putting out the news. He was gone after because he put out information that Hillary Clinton, Obama, and basically all of the Democrat Party, and if you think it's just the Democrat Party, it's not. It's also the neocons. It's also the deep state. It's basically anybody that refuses to actually stand up for this country and have their hands dripping with corruption. And this man was too much of a thorn in their side. So you know what they did? They put him behind bars. They refused to feed him. And ultimately, I think they won. I think they won. I'm not too optimistic about his chances, but take a look. Leaked audio obtained by Project Veritas reveals in 2011, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange warned the Hillary Clinton-led State Department that a rogue employee had stolen a trove of classified cables from the whistleblower organization and was about to release it. Assange told State Department Cliff Johnson that WikiLeaks had planned to release the cables with sensitive information redacted and expressed concern over enraging people by what he believed to be a reckless release. Yes, so on the situation is that we have intelligence that the State Department database of 250,000 diplomatic cables, including declassified cables, is being spread around and is to the degree that we believe within the next few days it will become public. Said Assange, we're not sure, but the timing could be immediately or within the next few days to a week. There may be some possibility to stop it. So here we go. Julian Assange, instead of just releasing all the information outright, actually went to Hillary Clinton's State Department and said, hey, look, I have a rogue agent, or, I can't even say agent, a rogue reporter, right, who happened to have the same information that WikiLeaks had, apparently someone who used to work for him, and is saying that they are about to release a completely unredacted trove of sensitive material about the United States government. He went to them, and yet he was still placed in prison. Still placed in prison. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And furthermore, I don't think Donald Trump is going to pardon Julian Assange. I think a lot of the people that have been behind Trump have kind of lost the fact that Trump lived up to a lot of things and also let us down on a lot of things. You saw what happened in terms of Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. You saw what happened when he had John Bolton within his cabinet. You saw him cut loose people like Bannon and Flynn when they were his closest allies and probably the only people he could actually trust. You saw what happened to Roger Stone. You saw what happened to basically anybody who even dared to stand up for the President of the United States. Whether it be Gavin McInnes, whether it be Milo, whether it be Alex Jones. I mean, the list goes on and on. People, influencers, giant movements forced to the corners of the internet because Donald Trump refused to put in legislation when he had the House and the Senate on his side. Now, you can say, well, the neocons would have, they wouldn't have backed it. They wouldn't have pushed it. Okay. He's the man with the microphone. He's the man with the loudest supporters. He's the man with people that are willing to die for this country. He has the largest Twitter audience, basically the entire world, dripping and waiting on his every word. And yet, you don't think he had the power to put on the fire and put the pressure on people like Paul Ryan and Romney and all the old guard? You don't think he had that power at that time when he had the House and the Senate? And then you saw what he did in terms of the tax cuts. Yeah, he gave big corporations a discount, but the original claim was that he was going to lower taxes for the middle class. Now, ultimately, he did that basically breadcrumbs. You saw what happened in terms of the stimulus plan, the largest wealth transfer from the American people to big business in the history of the United States, and the one Republican who actually stood up and said, this is not right, and voted against it. Donald Trump said, this man shouldn't be part of the Republican Party. So I'm all for Trump, but I'm going to point out when he doesn't do what he said he's going to do. And if we continue to back these people, which I'm going to show later in the episode, if we continue to back the same people that stab us in the back over and over and over again, what can we expect to change? What can we expect to change? You saw Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell just both won their elections. This was like a month ago? In November? They're there for another 4 more years. They're not going anywhere. If there was ever a time to put pressure on the Republican Party, it's now. It's during this runoff, when we actually have leverage. Not after the fact and then say, oh, then we'll change it from within. Yeah, after those 2 same senators out of Georgia then get all of the money, all of the backing, all of the business money, and say, hey, you know what? We're going to back this guy the next time. And then when someone comes in and says, hey, you know what? We're going to take your spot, they're going to do everything in their power, teaming up with big tech, big business rather, and the big banks, and they're going to silence those people. Same thing that happened to Laura Loomer. It's going to happen to every single real populist that dares to threaten the establishment, because this is a uniparty. It's not the Democrats versus the Republicans. It's one party. There are a few gems within there. And even those gems, people like Matt Gaetz or Ron DeSantis, they still have their faults. Backing the Israel lobby to the freaking hilt. Take a look. Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell concedes the election, but Trump clings on. Biden headed to Georgia on Tuesday to campaign for Democrats in January's crucial Senate runoff races, which will decide who controls the chambers during his administration. Back in Washington, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell broke his silence and finally recognized Biden as the winner of the presidential election. Speaking on the Senate floor, he congratulated President-elect Joe Biden, said, all Americans can take pride that our nation has a female vice president for the very first time. Yay! They stole it! Yay! Yay! Same thing with Lindsey Graham. Going down, Congress floor, sees Kamala Harris, fist bump, pat on the back. Hey, you know what? Good job. Good job. Destroy our country. Accelerate the destruction of our country. Annihilate the middle class. Make everybody poor and forced to work in these giant corporate entities, which we will back and subsidize with our own government dollars, which the poor people pay us. Wonderful cycle. It's the cycle of life, guys. It's the cycle of life. Don't you love it? Don't you love these Republicans? And that's why I disagree with people like Ryan Dawson, and I'm with Nick Fuentes on this one. I'm with the Red Elephants on this one. I'm with Alex Jones on this one. Why exactly should we back these candidates who, by the way, are rabble-rousing and moving around with the same neocons that want Trump gone? Why don't we just burn it to the ground? And people might say, oh, you know what? Because they're going to pack the Supreme Court. Because they're going to make Guam a state. They're going to make Washington a state. They're going to do all this stuff. Okay, then do it. And you know what? Secession. It gives us all the more leverage. All the more leverage to say, hey, look, you know what? These people are out of control. They're hungry for a power grab. They will expand the Supreme Court. They will not listen to the rule of law. They will simply enact as many nation states as they possibly could and vassals and make them states of the United States. Places like Puerto Rico and Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Washington, D.C., and then that way they'll have more senators and the Republicans will never win ever again. Okay, good. Secession then. If we have no chance ever, what's the point in participating? They want to remove the Electoral College altogether. They've already made that already established. So why not do that as well? They'll simply create more and more nation states so that when they actually have to do a vote and go through the Constitution to do it, which they probably won't, they'll probably just find some loophole around it like they always do, which is why they're constantly attacking our gun rights, attacking rebellious pieces such as the Confederate flag, which is the rebel flag. Going after people and demonizing them in terms of history, like Wilkes Booth, like John Wilkes Booth. History is written by the victor, ladies and gentlemen, which is why I recommend you pick up a book. And again, these are the people. And you think I'm going to back more neocon hacks in Georgia? I can't wait for the Republicans to lose again. And they will. And let's just say, just for argument's sake, that they don't. Let's just say that they have a fighting chance. I'm going to show you at the very end here why they have no chance. But first, we're going to talk about Lindsey Graham here. To those urging a pardon of Edward Snowden, you are suggesting President Donald Trump pardon a traitor. Edward Snowden is not a victim. Snowden has American blood on his hands, and he should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's right, guys. Don't you know? Don't you know that the PRISM program is for your own safety, ladies and gentlemen? It's just tracking you guys. It's not a big deal, okay? It's just a microchip, all right? It's not a big deal. We're just going to go through all of your phone calls, all of your data, all of your social media, all of your computer files. We're going to be going through your social security. We're going to be going through basically every single piece and parcel of who you are in terms of data, and we're going to use it and we're going to data mine that so that we can exert ultimate control over you. But it's not a big deal, guys. The PRISM program is not a bad idea, guys. It's American. It's American. Don't you know? Spy on your own citizens. The government shouldn't be afraid of its people. The people should be afraid of its government. Ladies and gentlemen, the Federalist Society, welcome to you, USA. Welcome. I think Robert Barnes says it best right here. Says the guy who betrayed the country by promising a real investigation on Spygate, then covered up all the culprits instead. Snowden is a historic whistleblower, and you're the fraud. Couldn't agree more. Lindsey Graham. Where is the Charles Wilkes Booth when you need him? Not a call to action, by the way. Anyway, this is why the Republicans are going to lose. This is why. This is Georgia, ladies and gentlemen. Urgent. This photo was taken moments ago by a poll watcher at the Congress Center in Georgia for the signature audit. This is his vantage point. He cannot see anything, and they are being kept corralled behind these barriers. How is this any different than before? It's not. And it's all by design. How can you have faith in anything in the United States when you can't even hold a free and fair election? All the information coming out about Dominion right now, no full forensic signature audit in terms of Georgia, everything going across the United States, and yet we have no voice. Because even big tech is now going out of their way to censor us. Why? We have no recourse. And I have been waiting for too long for Donald Trump to go scorched earth. He should be pardoning out the wazoo right now. He should be going scorched earth on everything, revealing every major government scandal involving the Pentagon, the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, everything uncovered and revealed to the world, so that we can see just how corrupt this government is. And if you think things are going to change, guys, if you think things are going to change, they're not. Even though William Barr resigns after DOJ throws cold water on voter fraud cases, the Attorney General said that there was a lack of evidence of any widespread voter fraud in the presidential election breaking with Donald Trump. They didn't even bother to look at the evidence. But he says there's no evidence. So you know what? He kicks him to the curb, and who comes in? Doesn't matter. Attorney General Jeff Rosen. Now, for those of you who don't know about Rosemont Seneca, Hunter Biden, there's this company, sounds kind of like, was it Stratton Oakmont? Can't remember. Wolf of Wall Street, right? They create this wonderful sounding name, and basically it's just a nice little honeypot so that government officials can stick their greedy little hands in there whenever they need some cash. And it's kind of an intermediary so that foreign nations can also add to the pile, very similar to the Clinton Foundation. And Rosemont Seneca is connected to Bill Barr. And coincidentally, or maybe not, also connected to the acting Attorney General, Jeff Rosen. So nothing's happening here. So don't get your hopes up. More black pills will rain, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lucius Coal of the Sanity Stream. I hope you gained a little bit of your sanity back. I will tell you the truth every single time, even if it is the bad news bears. I really think that if you are someone, whether you are a northerner or not, get yourself a rebel flag. Show that you are pushing back against this absolute tyranny. They're trying to stop our will. They are removing our icons. They are removing our heroes. They are removing warriors. And the funny thing is, these are the biggest doughboys on the history of the planet. Secession. My name is Lucius Coal. If you like this type of content, go down below, like, subscribe, share, and of course leave a comment if you think I deserve it. The Coal Factory and the Coal Train on our way to 1,000 Patriots strong. Thanks to people like you watching content like this. See you in the next one. Love ya. Peace. Coal Train. Choo-choo!